Today on the Daily Meditation, I wasted years of my life using meditation as escapism. Then I learned to engage. As a meditation teacher who has been meditating for more than 20 years, it's fair to say that I've learned a great deal about the practice. I've learned what does and doesn't work. I've learned the pitfalls that hold people back from progressing in meditation, and I've learned one of the most fundamental mistakes people make. It's a mistake I myself made for more than 5 years. That mistake is using mindfulness and meditation as escapism. It's a mistake that is all too easy to make. Inevitably, we all go through suffering, as Buddha said. We all face stress, anxiety, worries, and so on. Indeed, right now, as I write this, 2 of my closest friends are in hospital, and I most certainly am worried right now. And at times like this, it can be all too easy to turn to meditation as a form of avoidance, closing your eyes and pretending that reality doesn't exist so you don't have to face the challenges. And if you're not careful, this can become a way of life. That's precisely what happened to me. About 15 years ago, I made the decision to emigrate from England to Canada to be with the woman I love. Before I left England, I had in mind the idea of a fairy tale voyage across the Atlantic, imagining that everything would be perfect and easy. That didn't happen. Leaving my family and beginning a new life in a new country was, in fact, extremely stressful for me. And, as an avid meditator, I turned to my meditation practice for help. I meditated for hours every day under the pretense that I was seeking enlightenment, and all the while I was refusing to face reality. Meditation took over my life. The more I meditated, the further I escaped from reality, but the further I escaped from reality, the worse my reality became as I neglected my needs and my responsibilities. This charade of meditating in the search for enlightenment caused me to spend 5 whole years of my life disengaged from my real-world situation. As I ignored reality, reality got worse. As reality got worse, I felt more and more reliant on meditation as a way to escape from everything. It became a vicious cycle. Eventually, I did learn to stop escaping. I made fundamental changes in the way I meditate. Indeed, today I meditate specifically to help myself to engage with life in meaningful ways. And through my private meditation sessions, I help others to do precisely the same thing. But perhaps you're not in a position to be able to take private lessons, and so that's why in this episode of the Daily Meditation I would like to share my insights. So, let's look at the relationship between meditation and escapism, and the steps we can take to make sure that we use meditation to engage with life rather than escaping from it. Firstly, are mindfulness and meditation escapism? The truth is that mindfulness and meditation can sometimes be a form of escapism if you choose to use them to disengage from challenges in your life rather than as a means for self-awareness, self-regulation, and personal growth. If you're using meditation as escapism, you might notice the following signs. Avoidance, that is, using meditation to avoid facing difficult emotions or situations. Disengagement from different aspects of your life, especially challenging aspects. Emotional suppression, and lack of integration, that is, learning lessons and gaining insight from your meditation practice, but not using those insights in the real world. So why do we escape? And why shouldn't we? The temptation to escape stems from the desire to avoid pain. It's something that most of us can identify with because, of course, we have all been through pain. For instance, let's say that someone we love passes away, and indeed, 2 weeks ago, my beloved cat Pumpkin passed away at the age of 20, so this is quite fresh for me. So, if somebody we love passes away, we know that we have a painful road ahead of us, as we will have to overcome grief and other complicated emotions. But we can become overwhelmed, and that can cause us to shut down emotionally, leading us to escape rather than to engage. Another example would be we're facing divorce, and the idea of filling out the legal paperwork and perhaps moving out seems too much to bear. At these times, we are likely to be tempted to turn away from reality and to escape, such as by sitting on the floor for hours on end, every day, meditating, instead of actually doing what has to be done. The problem with escapism is both practical and psychological. On the one hand, escapism prevents us from taking necessary steps to overcome challenges so that we can move forward in life. Neglecting these challenges can often make them worse as well. For instance, refusing to accept that loan that you took out and thereby not paying it will only ever increase your debt as the interest racks up. And as for the psychological side, well, avoiding challenging emotions tends to make things worse. So if you fail to face a painful emotion when it occurs, it will steadily grow inside you, becoming worse and worse. And that is why escapism is rarely, if ever, the right choice. Instead of escaping, choose to engage. We have the choice of using meditation to escape or to engage with life. Escaping, as we have seen, will only ever make our situation worse as we fail to meet our needs and responsibilities. Engaging, on the other hand, means living life with purpose, accepting whatever comes along, and working with painful emotions rather than running away from them. Some ways to stop engaging and to start some ways to stop escaping and to start engaging include: identify your personal values. To live a life of value, you first have to decide what values matter to you. I recommend that you grab a pen and paper. Yes, right now, go get a pen and paper. And then, with your pen and paper, write 3 personal values that matter to you and why. Examples of personal values can include compassion, spirituality, family, authenticity, and environmental consciousness. Next, set meaningful goals. Write a list of goals that relate to the personal values that you just wrote down. For instance, if you decided that one of your most important personal values is family, then perhaps a goal could be to spend X amount of time with a certain family member each week. Make sure that you make those goals challenging, but also achievable. Next, embrace the challenges in your life. Instead of escaping from challenges, see them as an opportunity for personal growth. Create a plan to overcome those challenges. Practice gratitude. Instead of focusing on what you don't have, practice gratitude for what you do have. Be mindful of escapism. Look for times when you are escaping and find ways to engage instead. Simply being aware of escapist behavior will help you to change it. And meditate, but in a specific way, which I'll discuss now. Using meditation to engage, not escape. In my private meditation lessons, which are available via thedailymeditation.com, I often work with clients who have unintentionally been using meditation as escapism, and I help them to re-engage with life by making key changes to their meditation practice. I'd like to share one of my main tips for doing this. My tip is this. At the end of each day, write a journal entry or simply make a note of the most challenging thoughts and emotions that you faced during that day and the real-world situations that they regard. For example, maybe you had a bad argument with your spouse because you were feeling angry, and so the challenging emotion here would be anger, and the situation would be arguing with your spouse. Or, another example, perhaps you have a big presentation coming up at work and you're very nervous about it, and in that instance, you might write in your journal, anxiety about work presentation. So all you're doing here is being mindful through the day and writing down your most challenging emotion and the event that it pertains to. Next, in your next meditation session, use your meditation practice to face the challenge that you wrote down in your journal. So you're going to use meditation to empower yourself to overcome whatever the challenge is that you're facing. For example, if your challenge was that you're feeling anger towards your significant other and you've been arguing, perhaps you might like to do a little bit of loving kindness and other compassion-based meditations. So you're choosing meditation, loving kindness, and other compassion that will help you to reduce the challenging emotion, in this example, that being anger, so that you overcome the problem, which in this example is arguing. Or, if your challenge is anxiety with regards to a presentation that you have coming up at work, you might like to do mindful breathing, which reduces anxiety, combined with a visualization in which you visualize the presentation going well. Basically, you're using meditation to remedy the challenge that you wrote down in your journal. Please note that doing this does require good knowledge of the different meditation techniques and their effects. You can choose to work with a professional such as myself to do that, or alternatively, on thedailymeditation.com you will find a complete list of meditation techniques and what they are used for, so you can refer to that to decide which meditation would be best to help you overcome your challenge. My final thoughts. We can use meditation for escapism or to engage with life. Of course, to make the most of life, we want to engage. The biggest problem and my concern is that it is very, very easy to unintentionally use meditation for escapism, which is something that, as I mentioned, I myself did inadvertently. Doing so can have serious detrimental effects. Thankfully, we have the volition to change our meditation practice and to start using meditation to engage with life. Making that switch can be the biggest step to finding success and contentment and to living a life of purpose through meditation. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Daily Meditation. I invite you to like this episode and to subscribe. I'll see you next time.